UCLA gets the rivalry win over Oregon 74 to 63. It's a Bruins team that jumped out to an 18-point lead in the first half. Oregon was able to cut it all the way down to four. But ultimately, UCLA was too much. They got double figures out of all of their starters in the scoring column. I thought Eric Daly was magnificent in this game. I think he scored 14 points in like the first 11 or 12 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty good Sky Clark game with some trademark Sky Clark erraticism in there just for good measure. Connor, I think the storyline behind this, though, is maybe a little bit less of how good UCLA is and more so how bad Oregon is. Like, I think this Oregon team is even worse than we envisioned when we did the preview.
Yeah, I mean, you first off, I want to start by saying I understand why Dana Altman played Nate Biddle because it was against UCLA. You need your best to play. Nate Biddle had no business being on the floor in that game. Not from like a skill perspective. I think Nate Biddle is a great college basketball player.
Hmm.
He did not look healthy, and it showed. He was 0 of 10 from the floor. He had 4 rebounds as a 7-footer in this game in 26 minutes. He had an offensive rating. It wasn't the lowest on the team, but an offensive rating of 48 in this game. Um, and I think that's due partially to the injury. I think that's also due partially to the fact that, I mean, it wasn't just Eric Daly. It was Tyler Bilodeau had 8 rebounds. Eric Daly had 8 rebounds. Xavier Booker did a pretty solid job on the offensive end of the floor. This UCLA frontcourt, I feel like, just stifled Biddle and Devin Pryor, um, Sean Stewart as well. Like those three combined for 8 points. They made combined, those three made one basket from the floor.
Yeah, the 0 for 10 Nate Biddle game was not something I expected, even with him being unhealthy. Like, you think if you're good enough to play, you could at least make one of those. But, I go back to the first half, and I thought UCLA did a good job of mucking up the paint. I think just the length they have at the 3 through 5 positions, when you can play Eric Daly at the three. And I think he's made so many strides offensively that just gives them some more flexibility there. Bilodeau at the four, Booker at the five, and then even bringing in Steven Jamerson. I mean, he gave you 18 minutes in this one. The stat line's not really going to blow you away. He had four hard fouls in there too, but like there's just he's sometimes I think that like having just a competent backup big man in these situations can really swing a game in your favor. And you saw it play out with how much like I mean Biddle was clearly thrown out of rhythm, but they were even forcing him into some tough shots on the perimeter. Like first half, late shot clock situations, you got Nate Biddle taking almost logo threes. Like he was attempting some deep threes late in the shot clock, and they were just nowhere close to converting. And I think some of his struggles, though, are even less pronounced to me than just looking at this guard and perimeter unit. It's like after Shellstad, they pretty much have nothing. I think TK Simpkins has been an improvement over what I would have envisioned just with an Elon transfer moving up to the Big Ten. But to me, he's someone you probably want as your third perimeter option, not your second. Like they're just missing some juice. I think like guys like Oleg Kobziski, Desrick Lindsay, like, you're throwing them out there. It's like, dude, these guys just are giving you almost nothing. I mean, they're getting hardly any production out of Wei Lin as well. Like they're a brutal watch. And as much as they struggle offensively, defensively is arguably even worse. I thought the first half in particular, they were just giving up open look after open look from three for UCLA. It's like they're going under screens on Sky Clark, who's been shooting at an exceptionally high clip. He was creating separation with ease. I know his final stat line was something like 4 for 11. It felt much higher than that. I know that UCLA sort of went through a drought to end the game, but for the bulk of this game, when it was still, if you want to say it was in doubt or UCLA was building their lead, it just felt like Oregon was giving them zero resistance.
Oh, absolutely. And this was a game in which offensively you could easily argue like Donovan Dent didn't play well. I
Hmm.
think defensively he was fantastic. Offensively, obviously he had the 4 for 14. He only had 3 assists, 2 turnovers. Like it was Sky Clark running the show in this one, and I think that was a smart move considering how hot Sky Clark was playing.
Hmm.
Um, if there's anything you want to say about this for Oregon, it's the Nate Biddle was hurt. Kwame Evans didn't play. if Kwame Evans is in there, maybe the front court stands, and maybe it's fully healthy, maybe the front court stands a little bit of a chance. UCLA for the second game in a row survives what a second half push from their an inferior opponent. Um, in this one, Oregon cut the lead from what was it, like 17-7 or something in
Yeah,
10 minutes. Um, yeah.
they got it down to 4 in the second half. I'll ask you this, Connor, like while they were cutting into the lead and sort of making their run though, did you ever think UCLA was truly going to lose it?
No.
I didn't either. And I think that underlines again just these same issues with Oregon, where it's like, man, yeah, maybe Shellstat had a really good second half, but you turn around and you look at who he's like dishing out to, and it's Devin Pryor, who's just bricking shots. And it's TK Simpson, who at this point is better suited as a catch and shoot guy. And I think he's being asked to do more just because they don't have anyone in that backcourt behind him. And I don't know. I don't like the bench. I hardly like anything about this Oregon team. It's to me, it feels like everything sort of coalescing in what has been Altman sort of stringing together the parts to keep things afloat in the past 4 or 5 years and trying to build around Shelstead and Biddle. And it's starting to look like if it isn't already decided, I mean, they're sitting at 4 and 5, that you got 5 years out of Nate Biddle. You've gotten 3 years out of Shelstead so far. And I think they can give you stability at both the 1 and the 5. And we can argue whether or not Shellstad's better served as a true point guard or more of a combo who can slide down to the 2 and need someone to facilitate. The point is, I think he's a really talented guard. And if you have, let's say, good to great talent, at least one in the backcourt and in the front court, and you can build around them, you can have something special. But it's just starting to look like Altman hasn't been able to do that the past few years. And you're just sort of wasting away guys who I think – I mean, maybe they're not going to be national championship caliber. I mean, that's not really the type of program Oregon is at this point in terms of the ceiling you're looking for, but like routinely getting to the second weekend and further and doing the thing that Dana Altman did for years in the late 2010s, where he would cause teams matchup issues across the board, regardless of what seed line Oregon landed on. It just kind of seems like those days are gone.
Yeah, I'm not too well versed in their NIL, but it seems like maybe football's hurting them because theoretically Oregon should have one of the easiest times recruiting in the country because they've got Phil Knight.
Mm-hmm.
But this roster just doesn't do it for me. Even like Shelstad, Nate Biddle, Kwame Evans, like I would love them on any team as like a second or third option. I don't think I view any of them right now, even Shelstad for that matter. Like I don't view any of them as the first option on like an actual threat in the Big Ten. And that's just sad to see because, we're less than a decade removed from the Oregon team that made that run to the Final Four in
Mm-hmm.
2017. Um, and you could argue this roster might be more talented, but that roster played with a certain level of intensity that this roster just doesn't have. And especially when you're playing against UCLA and every possession is a premium, because there are so few of them, you would think that they'd come out in the first half with more of a fervor, but they just didn't. Like UCLA quickly jumped out to a lead and then
Mm-hmm.
just kind of held serve, and Oregon couldn't finish at the rim. Their bigs weren't shooting well. They couldn't really, outside of Shellstad and Simpkins, like they weren't making threes. Um, and I just, the depth isn't there either. Like Waylon is probably a year away. I think Dana Altman doesn't think he's ready to play right now. He's probably a year away.
How
If
old
he's
is
at Oregon
Waylon?
next year. Yeah.
Waylon's got to be like 22 at least, right? He's only
Yeah.
listed as a sophomore, so maybe he's younger than that. That's on me, Oregon
Um,
fans, for the lack of prep there, but
but like
he's 21.
it's the bench pieces are older, but you don't want them on the floor. You want the five that started in Kwame Evans on the floor, and then the other three can come in and rotate in just to give breathers. But that's not a recipe, especially against a team that plays as physical as UCLA. That's not a recipe to beat UCLA because if those starters and it showed in the final stretch of that game, once those starters start to wear down, they scored 7 points in the final 10 minutes.
Mhm. Ooh, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
I was looking up Wei Lin's biography. This dude put up 21 points last year in the CBA. He shot
yep.
41% from the field, 35% from three. Okay, that's not the best, but you can work with that if you're getting 21. I mean, 5 assists per game, average 30 and a half points per game in 2 playoff games for Nanjing in the CBA. And it's not even like, that's not even, unless I'm missing something, that's not like the second division of the CBA. I think it's like the real CBA. How is he this bad?
Yeah.
How is he a year away? That's what I want to know. I know he arrived super late, but like this dude was supposed to come in and be an instant impact guy. And yeah, again, and maybe I sold TK Simpkins a little bit short. I know he ran the point in spurts for Elon, so he probably has a little more juice on ball than maybe I'm giving him credit for. But yeah, you just look up and down this roster, and I as I'm watching this game, I'm like, dude, I don't know if how like it feels like 4 or 5 of these guys just straight up don't belong in the Big Ten, and here we are. But we can turn and talk about UCLA. I feel bad for neglecting them a little bit when they won this game because even though they let Oregon back in, and even though I'm not really an Oregon guy, I guess that's putting it nicely after I just talked about how terrible they were for the past 10 minutes. UCLA sort of seems like they're figuring it out. And I don't know if that's how the fans are feeling. Maybe the fans feel like, oh, we're still messing around and we should have won this game by 20. I get it. But just looking at like I don't know, like they squeaked by Eastern Washington to open the year, had a close one with Pepperdine, but they seem to have shaken that off. You go back a year ago, they lost that one to New Mexico at the start of the year, which seemed bad, but ultimately New Mexico is pretty good. And wasn't it like I swear they stumbled out of the gates like 3 years ago as well. The point I'm trying to make is UCLA sort of does this. They struggle some at the start of the year and then they start to put it together. And I get any sort of skepticism folks might have regarding some of Donovan Dent's inefficiencies, or even wondering if Mick can put him in the in position to succeed. But I like this perimeter group a lot. I think they're versatile. I think Bilodeau is a very versatile offensive weapon as well. And I'm starting to see signs of I wouldn't say like that top 15 team that they were preseason, but I think they can comfortably be a top 25 unit.
Yeah, I think it's completely fair for us to talk about Oregon as much as we did because I think this is, if it wasn't clear before, this is kind of the final nail in the coffin for Oregon. Like it only gets tougher from here. Um, and yeah, and so, just not being able to pick up this win, especially when you started coming back, you cut the lead to four. Um, this is just it's not a tournament team.
Mhm.
And this is kind of the eulogy of Oregon. For UCLA, yeah, I mean they're tough, they're hard-nosed, they're experienced. They start three seniors, two juniors. They have two seniors and a sophomore coming off the bench. Um, my only concern is still they have very inconsistent scoring performances. Um, and just I don't trust the depth.
Mhm.
In a game where they were up by as much as what was it, 18,
18.
um, only five, six players played more than 10 minutes for them. And I
Yeah.
understand Oregon kept pushing back, so they probably wanted to keep their best guys on the floor. But like you played Donovan Dent almost 40 minutes. You played Bilodeau 34. You played Sky Clark 33. You played Daly 30. Xavier Booker only played 21, but it's like that Jamerson and Booker kind of split time mainly due to fouls.
Hmm.
Um, and the fact that they're the best, they're like the only true like one-to-one switch.
Yeah.
Because you can't play anyone else other than Jamerson at the five. Um, and but like you'd like to see Jamar Brown and Trent Perry and Brandon Williams be able to be bigger players for this team. But like this is I guess Jamar Brown played more against Washington, but still like it's one of those ones where you just consistently see these players in some of these games. It almost feels like the opposite of like when they play big games, they're playing a lot. close games. They're playing a lot. But then in this game, I don't know why Mick didn't put them out there. It was perfect opportunity to get them minutes. Um, because they didn't look good today. None of them
Yeah.
did. I mean, Jamerson looked okay, but like Brown and Perry looked bad. Um,
Y-
and and it just really goes to show you how strong this starting five is that they were able to like almost single-handedly between the five of them or six of them with Jamerson like wear down this Oregon team and put this game away because you're playing 6, 7 deep against a team like Michigan, you're getting run off the floor.
That's a
You're
good
playing
point.
six, yeah.
They need one of Perry or Brown, I think. And I know Perry is still averaging, he might not be at anymore, but he was averaging double figures going into this one. They showed that little stat on the broadcast that I think UCLA was one of 4 teams with 6 guys averaging 10 or more points per game. But so I think Perry he has the recruiting pedigree to, he's been viewed as this high level guy for most of his life, let's say. And he has shown some flashes this year. I just think that between him and Brown, you need at least one of those guys to be a consistent scoring threat coming off the bench, just to take some of the onus off of both Dent and Clark. Although I do really like the starting five though, and I think like Daly's the one who's been the most impressive to me. Just thinking back to his IMG tape, and I think he was always viewed as this more upside guy with defensive tools who was rangy athlete, good athleticism. And then at Oklahoma State, you didn't really see a ton of offense. I think last year he started to make some strides, finished the year really well. This season, he's looked like a hooper out there. I mean, he banged home a three that they went under a screen on. He had like a Kobe turnaround off the glass that was really nice as part of his hot start. I just think he's shooting the ball a lot more confidently. And between him and Bilodeau, they're just 2 guys that can score all over the court that you can run stuff specifically for. But if you also just put the ball in their hands and let them read and react and play on their instincts, you feel pretty good about it. And so I think if both of those guys are giving you buckets in the paint, or I guess more so like in the mid range around the basket, and then you have Dent who I don't know. It's still been up and down, but you at least know there's reason to believe that it's going to click or that maybe Mick can put him in position better to take advantage of that, the way that he pressures the rim and gets to the free throw line. And then with Clark, I mean, Clark's hitting 51% of his threes this year. I think he's been like his 3 point progression has been massive for Dent. Just like Dent's 1 for 13 on the year from beyond the arc, and I think if he's going to be your starting point guard, you need Sky Clark knock it down close to probably like high 40s. I mean, he was just a tick under 40 last year, so to see him really heat up this year, I think has been much needed. But to your point, I think if they do have to go deep into their bench or when they're like playing against the stronger teams of the Big Ten, whether that's Michigan or Purdue or Michigan State, with programs that routinely will go way down on their bench that could pose some problems. But even going off of that, how do you like stack UCLA up against? I mean, I would say they're clearly not in the tier of those top three, and probably not in Illinois' tier either. But after that, like, do you like them better than Wisconsin? Would you take them like how far over are they over a resurgent Washington team right now? How do you think they stack up next to USC?
So first up, I'm going to be fair to Trent Perry, because I was just going purely off memory and stats. I was remembering the Arizona game where he was largely a no-show in his minutes. He had a
Mm-hmm.
great game against Cal, but I'm even as a someone who goes to a lot of Cal basketball games, I'm still not a true believer in Cal's strong start to the season. And then he was out against Washington, so like the injury probably played a part in Trent Perry's slide. Um, for UCLA in the Big Ten Conference, I'd have them behind Michigan and Purdue and Michigan State, obviously. Um, I would probably put them behind Wisconsin. I just trust Wisconsin's offense a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I see. I still think Illinois is better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think
Nebraska. Don't forget about Nebraska. I forgot to mention them.
I'd put them in that Nebraska, Iowa, maybe a little bit ahead of that Nebraska, Iowa, Indiana range,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I
Like
think that's fair.
behind the heavy hitters, behind USC, um, behind Wisconsin, but like right in that range. To me, it's just there's so much inconsistency still with this team. And it's not even game to game, it's like half to half. There's
Mm-hmm.
so much inconsistency with this team that I want to see a complete performance because we haven't had that. They lost to Arizona, they lost to Cal, and then they let Washington and Oregon both come back from huge deficits
Yeah,
to
yeah,
nearly take. I mean, they were up by what, uh 11 or something on Washington going into the last 10 minutes, and
oh yeah,
Washington nearly won that game.
yeah.
Um, so I need to see a convincing, consistent win against a team that isn't going to be in like the bottom 200 in the country when the end of the season rolls around.
I think that's a fair point. If you're a UCLA fan, you'll probably take sort of being in that 5 to 6 range right now after stumbling out of the gates, losing some of these contests the way you did, both against like the Cal one sticks out to me. It's like you probably going into the year with top 15 expectations, did not think that it was the University of California at Berkeley that you were going to trip up against. However, to shake that off and to get, uh, I was gonna
Here's my
gas it.
concern though, Riley.
Yeah, I'm trying to polish a turtle.
Here,
Well, no, that's too mean. Like they should have
here's
blown
my
this team out.
concern, Riley. They are the ninth most experienced team in the country per Ken Palm. They're going up against a Gonzaga team that I believe is second in the country, third in the country in D1 experience because Mario's been playing a lot more. So his minutes count for a lot more. But like, and then it's a bunch, then it's Arizona State, Cal Poly, and UC Riverside, and then it's the Big Ten. And the thing with these experienced teams, and I'm going to include Gonzaga even as a Gonzaga guy, is like they should come out the gates hot.
Hmm.
They just should. Like I understand, and this team in particular that returns a ton. Like they return three starters. Like they should be coming out of the gates hot. And the fact that they just kind of like stumbled to a 7-2 record
Yeah.
to me is concerning because as some of these other, as Washington starts to get better, as USC starts to coalesce a lot more, especially in their backcourt, as Purdue starts to like figure out what's happening and
Hmm.
becomes Purdue, like those teams are going to kick ass. And I'm not even mentioning the Michigan teams, which I think are both so clearly ahead of UCLA right now. So that's my concern with them is that like there's not really like I don't know it's it's not quite Kentucky level, but like
Hmm.
there's something there reminiscent of Kentucky where like they just need to hit a second gear and we really haven't seen them do that for 40 minutes.
You're making some compelling points, Connor. You're basically saying they are old. They should not be enduring these droughts and this sluggish play for prolonged stretches. And look at the loaded top tier of the Big Ten. While I'm still saying yes, but did you see Eric Daly hit a turnaround jumper off the glass? That was nice.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Well,
and Sky
they
Clark is
need to
on a
figure out
heater.
how to all compete at a high level together consistently. Because like you mentioned, they had double digit points. Yeah, well, Donovan Dent scored 13 points on 14 shots and seven free throws.
Yeah, yeah. It's a you can poke holes in that stat pretty easily. A fun stat, but one that you could definitely find flaws with. But we'll see what happens with this UCLA team. I am still not ready to abandon hope because the flashes look so good, but you do make a compelling case. Like with the veteran experience here, with guys. I mean, even like we talk about Sky Clark being a little erratic, a little volatile. The dude's played a ton of basketball. This is year 5 for him. Like he should be able to string this together a little more consistently. So we'll see how they continue to refine themselves as they play some of these bye games. I mean, obviously, massive test coming with Gonzaga. I think, yeah, I'm not really. Maybe we'll end up doing the preview for that, but even as much as I want to hold out some UCLA optimism, I don't give them much of a chance in that game.